Huawei is doing something that many people thought was impossible. For years, Apple's iPhone and iOS were some of the biggest names in China. But now, Huawei's HarmonyOS is becoming stronger and stronger, and once again, it has moved ahead of iOS in the Chinese market. And honestly, this is a big deal. According to a new report, HarmonyOS now has a 19% market share in China. This means more people are choosing Huawei phones and Huawei's operating system instead of Apple's iPhone and iOS. What's even more interesting is that this is not a one-time victory. Huawei has now stayed ahead of iOS in China for 7 straight quarters. Think about that for a moment. For almost 2 years, Huawei has continued to hold its position and keep growing while Apple struggles to catch up. Now let's look at the global picture. Worldwide, Android is still the king, but even Android is starting to lose a little ground. Last year, Android controlled about 80% of the global smartphone market. In the first quarter of 2026, that number dropped to 73%. At the same time, HarmonyOS is growing. Last year, HarmonyOS had around 3% of the global smartphone market. This year, it has climbed to 5%. Now, 5% may not sound huge when compared to Android, but remember something important. HarmonyOS is mainly driven by Huawei. It is not supported by dozens of smartphone brands like Android is. So for Huawei to keep growing like this is actually very impressive. But the big question is, why is Huawei growing so fast? Well, one reason is its latest phones. The Mate 80 series has been selling very well. Huawei's Enjoy 90 phones are also helping the company attract more customers. These phones are giving people more reasons to stay inside Huawei's ecosystem. Another reason is something many people don't talk about enough. Huawei depends heavily on Chinese suppliers for many of its phone components. Why does this matter? Because phone parts around the world are becoming more expensive. Many smartphone companies are dealing with higher costs and supply problems. Huawei is less affected by some of these issues because it works closely with local suppliers inside China. This helps the company keep costs under control and continue producing phones without depending too much on foreign companies. And this is where the bigger story starts. This isn't just about Huawei versus Apple anymore. This is becoming part of the larger technology competition between China and the United States. For years, many people believed that American technology companies would always dominate the global market. But now we're seeing Chinese companies build their own chips, their own software, their own operating systems, and their own technology ecosystems. HarmonyOS is one of the biggest examples of that. Huawei was hit by sanctions and restrictions, and many people thought the company would slowly disappear from the smartphone race. Instead, Huawei went back to work, built its own operating system, improved its devices, and now is winning back customers. That's something very few companies could have done. Now, does this mean Huawei has already beaten Apple worldwide? No. Apple is still incredibly strong around the world. The iPhone remains one of the most popular smartphones on the planet. But in China, Huawei is proving that Apple is no longer untouchable. And if HarmonyOS continues growing at this speed, the competition could become even more intense over the next few years. The tech battle is getting more interesting than ever. Huawei keeps growing. Apple is trying to defend its position. Android is still leading globally, and the race between China and the United States in technology is only getting started. The next few years could completely change the smartphone industry, and HarmonyOS might become one of the biggest stories to watch.